Eugene, fellas, and let's get ready for our session. Today, we're looking at accountability, guys, and thank you all for showing up. If you are not a subscriber, go ahead and do that. And if this is a chat only for, if you're a subscriber, you get to participate in the chat. If not, you can hang out. Let's listen a little bit. But if you become a super fan, you can participate in the chat today. We're rolling out some different things now. What you're going to see, hopefully, in the future. I'm going to do this even a little different to make it a little more appealing to the super fans. Again, I'm going to have the materials. I'm going to have materials. You'll be able to see those if you're a super fan. And so that way you can kind of follow along with me when we do these things. I am an attorney. I'm also a certified substance use and addiction counselor. I've spent my whole life doing this kind of stuff, and some of you know that. If you're a super fan, you certainly know who I am. If you are on my page and following maybe for the first time on the tube, which we're streaming now from that platform, I'm visually impaired. For those of you that do that, it is going to be a little bit difficult. If you ask a meaningful question, I will try to get to it in the chat. I can always see when someone is asking a question, so I'll try to pull it up here to where I can see it a little bit better. But anyway, guys, we're going to talk about accountability and personal accountability when it comes to recovery and addiction. So if you're in the chat, you can certainly ask a question. Normally what I do when I do these is, let me set this right. Normally what I do is I will be speaking to my live group today. My daughter owns a substance abuse clinic, and I help out. We're both certified addiction counselors, and so I try to help out. But today, during our clinic, it's normal clinic day today on a Wednesday. I keep forgetting. There are certain times that we don't have clinic, and this is one of those times. But nonetheless, I am here and going to take care of you all if we can, if you all will allow me, and we'll just kind of get into it. Somebody, and if you're in the chat, you can certainly. Now, if you're on the other platform, the tube platform, you can still participate in the chat, and I'll try to get to your questions. It's a little bit different when I have to go to this because I have that device on my phone. I've got my phone with that platform up, and we're running. But if you are just scrolling through, thank you very much. So let's sit around and listen and participate. Those of you that are in the chat and can chat, I'll be able to respond a little bit better with your questions a little more efficiently because I don't have to deal with my live class. Normally I have a live class, and we do that. All right, guys, so let's talk about accountability, personal accountability, and kind of anybody know, just for argument's sake, what is personal accountability when it comes to addiction and recovery? Somebody want to tell me what that is, what it means to you? What it means to you? Somebody tell me. I could spend the whole time talking, but it's a whole lot better if you all interact. So somebody, well, first off, let me know that my chat is working. Somebody give me a thumbs up or let me know that the chat is working on the TikTok. Somebody let me know that. Somebody tell me. In the TikTok, somebody tell me if the chat is working. Ah, thank you, Jennifer. My first comment, thank you. I always want to know that I'm working before I start, so that way, if you have questions in the chat, if you're a super fan, then you can ask questions. Thank you, guys. If you're not a super fan, you can participate. I've got some wise guys in the chat over in the YT, so we'll just try to ignore the. I'll just ignore. Yes, someone's being a little nutty. All right, so accountability, guys. The first part when we talk about accountability and personal responsibility, personal accountability when it comes to addiction is the first step is to recognize that you and you alone, no matter what you might have thought in the past, you or you alone, you and you alone, only you are responsible for putting yourself in the position that you're in during your addiction phase. It's all you. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that there could be some interceding events. Maybe you were injured. Maybe you went through a real traumatic experience which led to your reliance on substances. That happens. However, there reaches a point to where after you've moved past that trauma and you begin to realize that the substances, whether they're prescribed or not, are not doing you any good, and you cease taking them because of the original issue, and you are now taking them because of different issues. It makes you feel good. It kind of gets rid of some of the aggravation, and some people like it, right? You reach the point at which you stop taking the substance for the original issue and you begin to take it for other issues. So you have to own that. You have to own your addiction. Only after you own it, only after you recognize you caused it, you are creating this thing, only after you do that can you begin to take responsibility for your recovery. So taking responsibility for your recovery is more of a straightforward issue. We're not blaming. We don't blame anybody. The tendency when you're in addiction is to blame everybody else in the world but you. In recovery, you are totally responsible for managing your recovery. Nobody else but you. I don't care if you've got family. I don't care if you got what kind of friends you got. But you are the person that is totally responsible for taking care of your recovery and making sure that you are in a place that is conducive for your recovery. A lot of people like to blame everybody else when they're in recovery, when they have a slip up, when they have a mistake, or when they have a misstep. It ain't nobody else's fault. It is nobody else's fault but yours. If you have a relapse, and they call it relapse. I call it relapse. That's the term I use. When you're in recovery, you have a mistake, that's a relapse. Now you can learn a lot from relapse, but the big central focus here is you taking accountability for your sobriety and your recovery, because nobody else can do it. And one of the big mistakes that people make when they're brand new in recovery, one of the big mistakes they make is believing that they can get into recovery because of their kids, or because of a mother or father, or someone sick in their family, and they're going to do it for the children. They're going to do it for their kids. They're going to do it for the mama, for the daddy. All of those are wrong. If you are in recovery and you're working on your sobriety, you cannot do it for anybody else. You got to do it for you. Having all these artificial motivators never work. It never works out because something could go wrong with those individuals. Something, they might not be as appreciative as your sobriety as you think they should. And then sometimes you're going to get mad at them. They're going to get mad at you along this journey. And if they get angry at you and they step back from the picture, what's going to happen then? So you have to set a situation where you're not relying on really anybody else to be sober except for you. And you've got to take ownership and you got to manage that. It's kind of like if you exercise. I see a lot of runners do this. And since I'm a runner, I always like to talk about running and even exercising. We're almost a full month after the new year, and everybody made a lot of these New Year's resolutions to exercise. And I see it a lot with people that exercise. They'll get a group of people, and they'll all swear that they're going to go running or they're going to go to the gym on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then after about a week or so, the people that said they were going to go with you to the gym, you call them up and say, hey, you ready to go? I'll come by and pick you up. And they're like, nah, I'm a little tired. I'm not feeling good. I'm going to sleep in today. So you use that person as an excuse for you to sleep in. And you're not taking responsibility in that situation. You're not taking responsibility for your own fitness. You are allowing someone else to dictate whether or not you do what you need to do. It's the same thing in recovery. When you rely or you say that you're relying on these other people in your recovery, to help you in your sobriety, when they fall down, that gives you permission to fall down. You have to understand that sobriety is all about you. You've got to be very selfish when it comes to sobriety. No matter what happens, you are in charge. You are the captain of the ship. And you got to treat it that way. Any other time any other thing, and when you allow someone else to guide your sobriety, it's not ever going to work out. So it's all about you. You've got to take responsibility. You are responsible for the success and the failure. Nobody else. Because if you're not careful, it's easy. That's why if you incorporate, the more people you incorporate in your plan for sobriety, the more people that are participating. It's a good, so let me back up a minute. It's a good thing to have a network of people that support you. But when you rely on them for your sobriety, they should just be support. That's it. They should be there in case you need them. But primarily, you're the one that's responsible for your sobriety. You just can't leave it to anybody else. I don't know any other way to say it. Because the tendency is, when you have a lot of people in your group, is to blame other people when you fall down. You want to avoid that. Your sobriety is a very personal thing. When you have a plan, when you create your sobriety plan, it's very personal to you. It's okay to recognize who your resources are and try to figure out who they are. You'll want to know who your resources are. But your recovery plan is all about you. And you need to get all of those distractions and all of those negative influences out of your way, so that way you can increase the chances of a sustained sobriety. And you don't allow excuses. And we'll talk about that a little more. So I got a couple of things here. Made some notes, actually. I actually made some notes. So there's a few tips, there's a few things you can do to ensure that you are that you hold yourself accountable. The big thing is to get a mentor, get a sponsor. Whenever you include people in your plan, just as a means for pure support, that helps you. You want to get a sponsor or get a mentor when you're along this journey to be there and to provide you with information and to be kind of a sounding board. That's what a sponsor is all about, and it's kind of a lifeline to reach out and have that person in your corner that's going to throw that cold water on you and wake you up and let you know that what you're about ready to do isn't good for you. That's what you want to do, a sponsor, a mentor, to help you formulate your plan. If you don't have someone with you to help you formulate your plan and kind of act as a sounding board, because if you've never been in recovery before, it's hard. It's difficult to develop those plans. It's very, very hard. Recovery from substance use and addiction is one of the toughest things you're ever going to do. And it doesn't make sense, if this is your first rodeo, that you would want to do it without any kind of guidance. That doesn't make any sense at all. Nobody does that. Nobody does it. If you start a job, you start a new job, one of the best things to do at the workplace when you start a new job is to pick out a couple of people who's been there a while and let them show you the ropes. You talk to them, have lunch with them, give them to tell you what the lay of the land is, who the people are who you can reach out for help in case you need help on the job. So that we do that all the time, but somehow in recovery, people are really hesitant to reach out and find those people who can make their pathway a lot easier. And I would encourage you, and I would suggest to you that if you do not do that, if you do not initially find somebody who can help you create your plan and help you, at least because that person that's traveled that road can give you some pointers as to what works, what doesn't work. Now what doesn't work for that person might not necessarily be a bad thing for you, but at least you can go through the process and get this person, this mentor, this sponsor to help you figure out your plan. If you do not have a plan for your sobriety, it won't work. And you've got to go from A to Z. You've got to analyze your home environment. You've got to look at your work environment. You've got to understand, again, take personal responsibility and understand how you got to the point that you're in recovery. How did you get to this point? And it might be that some of the people, it could be the job that you have, it could be the particular industry that you're working in is a problem for you, and that maybe that might be one of the contributing factors that caused you to get into this addiction phase. I've had clients that had to leave their industry because that was their industry where they worked was the thing that made substances more accessible. You can always find them, but there are certain job industries that make it easier to use substances than others, and I believe that's so. So I've had some people that could not remain sober in the particular career path that they chose, and they just had to get out of it for whatever reason. So you have to understand all those things. You got to look at your family and see if your family members are on board. If your family members, your immediate family members are, if your immediate family members are not on board and they are constantly pulling you away, you can't blame them. You can't point them out and point a finger at them when you fall down and blame them for your relapse. But they're an important factor. And if you've got family members within your tight circle that you know are going to be an impediment to your sobriety, then you, as the manager of your sobriety, has to deal with it. And drastic times call for drastic measures. I'm also an attorney, as a lot of you know already. I have had to tell many people that's been in my recovery group that they're probably just going to have to leave their spouse. They're just probably going to have to leave because it's not going to work. If they're not fully invested in what you're trying to do, it's never going to work. Any of you have ever tried to diet? And I use this analogy a lot. If you're in a situation where you're trying to quit smoking or you're trying to diet and you are surrounded constantly with people that don't respect you enough to facilitate your weight loss or facilitate you as you try to stop smoking, and if they won't respect you enough to at least not smoke or eat bad foods while they're around you, you got to do something. If you're confronted with those things every day, you got to understand, if you are in recovery, if you constantly surround yourself with people doing things that you know are likely to lead to your relapse, you got to get rid of them. You got to get rid of them. You got to find a way to move these people out of your life so that you can continue on with your plan. Develop, so sponsors, mentors are one way that you can kind of hold yourself accountable. The other is a behavioral contract. Yes, I'm a lawyer, so I like contracts. Develop a behavioral contract with the people in your family. Contract has two parts. There's everyone that's a part of that contract has to agree to do certain things, and then you do certain things. That's the way a contract works. If you're trying to develop a sustainable sobriety or recovery plan, then it is important that you get everyone in, at least in your immediate family circle, whoever you see most often in your family, those people, get them to sign on to your plan. Get them to commit that they're not going to be around you under the influence of substances. Get them to commit that they won't bring it in your house. At minimum, do that. Get them to sign a contract, and you sign the contract. Let them know up front what you're about ready to do and that you would like to have their commitment. This doesn't have to be a complicated contract. Very simple, a few lines, a couple paragraphs. But a contract is a very powerful tool. A lot of people are going to tell you that they'll help you and they'll support you. But when they sign their name on a line, it means a little bit more when you get people to commit on paper, because it's real. It's not just things floating out there in the ether. It's a real document. You can see it. And when these people, when they sign it, and when these people start backing off or forgetting what they signed, you got that paper and you pull it out and say, listen, man, I'm trying to do this. You signed here and said you wouldn't bring this shit around. So I'm going to ask you again, please abide by the contract. And if they don't abide by the contract, you have to have a situation where you remove them. Or you have to move. If it's their house, their situation, then you might have to move. And that's tough. That's a tough thing to do. But sometimes, if you're truly serious about your sobriety, that's what you're going to have to do. So, a contract is a really good way to increase the level of the accountability. I use contracts a lot. Well, I mean, we use contracts in our clinic. As soon as someone comes in, they sign a contract. They sign a contract, and we spell out what their responsibilities are. We spell out our responsibilities, and everybody signs it. We do things, they do things. And if everybody does what they're supposed to under that contract, the chances of a successful recovery go straight up. And aftercare is certainly a big thing. Get involved in an aftercare program. A support. Support isn't counseling. Two things. If you're in recovery, you need a good aftercare program, a support system like an AA or an NA type situation, and real counseling where you get information. You want information. Recovery, a recovery group, a support group, and a counseling group are two totally different things. In fact, if I had to choose one, I would choose a counseling program over a support group any day. Because in a counseling program, you're also going to get support because there'll be people like you that are similarly situated in that particular for that particular time, a couple of times a week, a couple of times a month. So you do get for lack of a better word, you get the camaraderie of other people that are like you, but you're also going to get good solid information about recovery and tips and tricks, and you're going to actually learn about recovery and how to maintain your sobriety. You're not really going to get that in a support group, what I have found. I've been doing this since 1985. In large part, I find most support groups are worthless. In fact, a lot of support groups, I got a lot of chat going on, a lot of support groups sometimes can be a trigger. Positive connection. Someone in the chat, thank you very much. Someone said that in the chat. Your counseling group can serve as a way, kind of a safe place for you to go and air out your problems, talk about some of the things that's going on, and get some real solid direction from a leader, from someone that knows what's going on. Because these support groups, by and large, what I have found is just people getting together talking about the good old days. And if you're in real recovery, you know that the good old days ain't the good old days. And so it's really important to do that. A good recovery program, can, let me see. So let me look here. There's another couple things I wanted to cover. Pardon me, fellas. I don't know how I missed it. One of my big components, and we're going to talk about this here for a little bit. This is going to be a rough conversation right here. Is punishment. Where does punishment, and I'm going to throw this out as a question, what place does punishment have when it comes to accountability? Someone want to tell me, what place does punishment have when it comes to recovery, a recovery plan? Where does it fit? Someone keeps asking about legal questions in the tube chat. If you have legal issues, I'm going to be around usually in the mornings, and we'll talk about those. And I might come back on this afternoon about 3 o'clock. If you're on my TT channel, you all know I'm here. So I'll be I'll be live hopefully around 3 o'clock today. I've got a court hearing. So I'll be back on and off. You want to subscribe to my channel, set your notifications. And so when I'm on, I will entertain legal questions. But right now, we're talking about recovery and addiction. And specifically today, we're talking about punishment. Oh, there you go. Someone made a really insightful comment there. Without punishment, there really is no accountability. There just isn't. And I get so sick. We have a society now, because a lot of our leaders, and this is not a political statement, this goes with every part of society today. Everyone says, and I don't know how many important people, not just politicians, but important people you see in the media, when they make a big mistake, first thing they do is they get in front of that camera and they say, I accept full responsibility for my actions. What the hell does that mean? What does that even mean when you say, I accept responsibility? Now, in my day, when you accepted responsibility, you got punished. You paid for your actions. That is exactly what accountability means. Owning the problem. Taking your medicine. A lot of people want to say they accept responsibility, but they don't want any of the mess that goes along with accepting responsibility. And I think you really can't, you cannot have a meaningful recovery unless you're willing to accept responsibility for your actions. And one of the great things that I like about some of these 12-step programs that are out there is that they're really big into holding every individual accountable. They have a mechanism to do that. You actually confront people and you sit down and you talk to people about what you did to them, and you ask, I don't know, you can ask for their forgiveness, but really what you're doing, and this is what I tell people, it is incumbent upon you, if you did someone wrong, to apologize, to reach a point in your recovery where you recognize you were a turd and you did bad things to these people. And in the recovery manuals, in the 12-step programs, they write letters to these people. And that's good to write a letter, but if it's someone that you know, someone that you have a personal relationship with or had a personal relationship, you might want to, there's all kinds of ways to reach out to people. You might want to send them a Facebook message, send them a text, and say, listen, I'm in recovery. I've been sober for X number of, however long you've been sober. I've been sober. I recognize that I did some bad things when I was, being young, and when I was being stupid, when I was using. I recognize I did some bad things. But I would like to apologize. And you ask them out to dinner. You ask them out to lunch. And if they don't want to do that, you just simply say, I'd like to apologize. Now, once you do that, and if it's a meaningful apology, you don't have to keep beating yourself up over the head with it. Once you have done that, and it's a heartfelt, meaningful apology, then it's up to them to accept it or not. And this is what you've got to understand. Not everybody's going to believe you. Not everybody's going to buy what you're selling, because you've sold them shit before and it hasn't worked out. So not everyone's going to buy it, so you got to be prepared for that. But I think it is incumbent upon you to atone. Try to atone for what you did. And you can't do that by keeping it a secret or acting like it never happened, which is like the worst way. You see someone you did you see someone you did wrong on a regular basis and you don't say anything about it. I honestly don't know how that works. Whenever I make a mistake, and many times in my life, I have mistreated someone in the work, not mistreated them in the workplace, but maybe got angry, said something I should not have said in the heat of the moment. And immediately when I go back and I have some reflection, once I recognize that maybe there was a better way, I always confront that person and say, hey, what happened yesterday I ain't proud of. I truly am sorry. I hope you accept my apology, and I will try not to let that happen again. I just let them know I'm sorry and I apologize, and I'll do better. And it's up to that person to accept it. And some people won't accept what you're throwing down, and some people will. Some people will give you some space. And that's what you're required a lot of times when you're in recovery. I don't recommend 2 months after you're in a good recovery plan that you do that. I recommend that there's some time that gets by where you feel like you're clean, your body feels good, your mind is out of the fog. Once you've got a clear head, drop a note, drop a line to these people, find them, text them, whatever, send them a letter, and let them know that you are seriously trying to get your shit together, and that you want them to know that you're sorry. And be specific. If there are specific things that you did to that person, you say it. You remember when I stole that $50 out of your purse and you really didn't know and you were asking everybody? Well, that was me that took that $50. And if you have 50, give it to them. Pay back. Pay back. There was a wonderful, and if you get a chance, I love it, and I can't find it. I look for it every now and then. I haven't looked for it in a while. There was a wonderful show, and I believe it was called My Name is Earl. It was a wonderful show about this dude. He was kind of a pitiful creature, and he was surrounded by people who kind of had his best interest at heart. It was a comedy, but he had set out and made a list of all the people he had done wrong. And the whole show's centered around him approaching all these people that he had slighted to make an apology, to make the record right. It was a great show. It was hilariously funny. And I honestly don't know why it didn't stay on for very long, but it was very funny. But it kind of did that. This dude had his list, and he went down his list and tried to make it right. So that is true ownership of your addiction and your recovery. And and lastly, again, so once you do that, once you make your plan, you cannot allow yourself to give in to excuses. I mentioned this a little earlier. You cannot, and that's a big bugaboo when it comes to plans. It's easy to fall down and blame that relapse on something else other than you. It's easy to blame your mother, your father. It's easy to blame losing your job. It's easy to blame someone passes away. That to me is the worst. When someone blames their relapse on the death of a family member, that absolutely chaps my ass. You don't know how many people I've had in recovery when they piss, when they have a bad screen, they have a bad urine screen, and then you confront them with it. And the first thing out of their mouth is, well, my mother passed away, or I had an uncle passed away, or I had a double third cousin that passed away, and I had to go to that funeral. And I just couldn't go without me taking that medicine. Now, that's just utter bullshit. It wasn't the funeral They just wanted to use that substance. They hadn't learned the skills necessary to deal with that issue, because that's what recovery is all about. Learning the skills to move forward without those substances. I hated it. I still do when people come into clinic and they're blaming their relapse on someone else, because that's easy to do. We can always blame somebody else for our misgivings. I see it all the time. And it's not just, and this principle applies not just to recovery people, but to people in general that are trying to get out of their own way. They're in a shitty situation and they really don't know how. They've got a plan. They've done all these things. They've got a plan. They kind of got a guide. They know they're kind of heading in the right direction. And then when something happens to derail the plan, they got to blame somebody else. Most of the time, when shit screws up, it's a you problem. Most of the time, it's a you problem. And you've got to understand that. And when you begin to take ownership of those things, the better off you're going to be. And it feels so much better. When you make an excuse, when you make an excuse for not doing something, it makes you feel small. Excuses for like little kids. Anytime, and I've always found this, anytime you use an excuse for not doing something you should have done, and you have to tell that person your excuse, it makes you feel small. I don't use excuses. I did it one time. I remember the most embarrassed I ever was. I was 20 something. I'd had a good job. I had become a director of a partial hospitalization program. Back in the day when they moved all of the mentally ill people out of the long-term facilities, they put them in these community mental health facilities. And I had become director over this little community mental health facility. And I was late, like really late to work one day. Late. I was so late that my supervisor had to come into our facility and manage the work until I got there. So he was there. He didn't like it. He wasn't happy. But he said to me, and it still rings in my ears when I think about it, and it makes me a little embarrassed when I talk about it. First thing I did is I come into the office, I said, Philip, I want to tell you I'm really sorry about being late. And I gave him, I can't remember what reason I gave him. It was bullshit. I gave him some kind of half-assed reason as to why I wasn't there. He said, Eugene, I want to stop you right now. Stop right now. He said, I don't accept excuses. He said, I want performance. He said, in my opinion, all excuses are lies. I'm not your daddy. I'm not your mother. I only want work to be done. I don't need an excuse. And it was, when he told that to me, it kind of just, I had never had anybody say that to me the way that he said it. I just took a step. He said, all that I want from you is a commitment that you're not going to do that anymore unless you give me some kind of a notice, because I didn't give him any notice. I just didn't show up. I was maybe an hour and a half late. I said, you got my commitment. I won't do it again. And I didn't. I worked there for about 2 more years. He was a wonderful guy. I loved the job. But that was the thing. He said, all excuses. He said, I look at all excuses as lies. Now at the time, that seemed really harsh to me. But at the end, at the final analysis is, he wasn't about hearing excuses. Because excuses are easy to do. It's cheap. But he told me, he said, I'm not your daddy. You should be embarrassed to have to tell me an excuse. And that's true. Anytime you have to give an excuse to someone for not performing the way you should, it makes you feel small. It doesn't make you feel like a big full person. So don't accept these excuses because it's easier. And the problem with an excuse, it's a slippery slope. And I don't care what the issue is. I do not care if it's a physical disability or whatever it is. Do not pimp out your disability. Don't pimp out your family members. Don't pimp out your friends. Don't use any of these people as an excuse or a crutch for you not managing your sobriety, because it's weak and nobody's buying it. So that's a big thing when it comes to sobriety, is excuses, because when you're in addiction, you're used to giving excuses for everything. You learn that. You learn to give an excuse for not showing up at a family event because you were stoned. You learn all these excuses to tell your boss why you didn't do the job. I mean, you do them and people accept them. So, but the thing is, you have to be accountable. And when you make a mistake, you own it. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I will organize my shit so that it don't happen again. That's the thing about once you hold yourself accountable, once you say I take accountability, then you got to accept the punishment. But not only that, is you have to recognize what caused you to screw up, and then you got to maybe reshuffle some things, reorganize. That's where your mentors and your counselors can help you. They can help you analyze what's going on to try to make it better. So use all these people to hold yourself accountable. Accountability is big. If you're not in a position where you're going to hold yourself accountable and you're constantly going to blame somebody else for your problems, you're not ever going to get better. Not ever. So anybody got any questions or comments or anything? I've talked a lot. Someone give me some questions. Somebody said pit emotions against people. Yes, that's true. So guys, any questions, any comments? This was a really short message, but I talk about stuff like this through our recovery. It's little things that I think we need to keep in mind. I really love the idea of a contract. If you're in any kind of a situation where you're trying to recover and you're trying to develop a sobriety or a recovery plan, a contract is a wonderful way to hold yourself accountable. And you've got to employ people. You've got to employ people that you trust and you respect to help you. Someone in here in the chat on the tube, I'm not real sure of the question, but how hard is it for them to be vulnerable. Yeah, being vulnerable, being open to change. I think there has to be a certain amount of vulnerability. You have to open yourself up to other people. I think you have to do that when you decide to develop a recovery plan. At some level, you're going to have to trust the people that you incorporate in your recovery plan. And for some people, that's hard to do. But I think that comes in time. That's why getting a mentor and stuff like that is a very serious thing, and you got to kind of respect the people that you include in your recovery plan. But vulnerability is a big thing, particularly when you are trying to engage in recovery. Because at some points, when you're brand new in recovery, you really don't know who to trust. The people, your family and friends that you used to have, don't trust you. The people that you left, your buddies that you used to use with, don't trust you anymore. Once you leave their group, they don't trust you. So you're, and a lot of people are afraid to let their guard down and truly trust somebody to help them. But I think you have to find a way to do that. I don't think you do it immediately. I think that's something that happens over a little course of time. Good comment. Thank you. Any more comments, fellas? We got a bunch of people on here. Any comments? Any questions? Guys, I'm here on Wednesdays at 9:30. And if you're following me on the tube, subscribe. Take a look at my stuff. I've got some links. Take a look at those. I will be hosting a live give and take class. We'll actually have class I hope it's next week. I have someone helping me produce a program whereby you'll be able to log on. I'll have materials you can purchase, and we'll actually do a give and take group situation. And I'm gonna have room for about 15 people each session, and it will be a true give and take. You'll have the material, we'll go over the material, and we'll talk about the material. It's a curricula-driven class. Hopefully it works out for everybody. Yeah, you can't save everybody, right? Some people don't want to be saved. It's just your job, is to make yourself available. You can't save anybody. That's a mistake that people make. Loved ones, that's a mistake they make. You cannot save anybody. You can facilitate it. You can be there. But you can't save people if they don't want to be saved. You just can't. And it's terrible. Yeah, and someone in the tube commented, yeah, it can literally, if you have a mindset of being a savior, it is not going to work out well for you. And in fact, a lot of people that are addicted individuals are very smart. They are truly in tune with getting what they want. They know how to manipulate people, and they will spot that in you and turn that around on you and make your life miserable, because they'll make you responsible for their problem. Because if you're trying to save them, so kind of the mindset is, if you're trying to save them, then you have this mistaken belief that you have power over them. And people like that. People that are full on in addiction and into manipulating and turning the tables and turning that around on you can make a miserable person out of you. You have to understand you cannot save, you can't make people happy, right? This is one of the things I always tell when I'm in my counsel, when I do a lot of marriage counseling as a lawyer. And one of the things I tell a lot of people is that you can't make someone happy. And nor should you want that responsibility, because let me tell you something. If you think you can make someone happy, and you do in fact facilitate someone's happiness, and you claim credit for making that person happy, whenever they're sad, you have to also take responsibility for making that person sad. You can't make someone happy without you taking the responsibility of making them sad. And I promise you, if you accept the responsibility of making someone happy, you have to accept the responsibility for making them sad. But the fact is, you can't make anybody happy. You can't make anybody sad. You can't make someone want to be a better person. You just can't. You can facilitate it. You can help provide them with tools and resources. But ultimately, they're the ones that have to build the house, right? You could give everybody that wants a new house, give them the plans, give them the materials, supply them with the knowledge on how to build a house. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that actually have to build it. They have to accept responsibility for making sure it's done. You can't do that. You can provide the materials, the support, encouragement. But at the end of the day, it's that person's responsibility. So, you can't make it. I mean, it's a lot to be responsible for your own damn shit. Someone said in the comments over here. Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. You have to be accountable to yourself, and you should not want the responsibility. And you see this a lot in married couple. The thing that should make the hair on the back of your head, your neck stand up, is when someone gives you credit for making them happy. When someone says that to you, you need to step back and think about it. And you need to say to them, no, I did not make you happy. You did that yourself. I helped, I facilitated. I didn't make you happy. You don't want that mess. You don't want that hot potato in your lap. Someone telling you that you made them happy or you got them sober. Because once you accept that response, and it feels good to have people tell you that, but once you accept that, they're going to come back on you and blame you when shit goes sideways. And so you don't want that. And so you got to train yourself to be listening for that. When you're in a situation where you're trying to facilitate someone's sobriety, you got to be acutely aware of them telling you that you are their savior. You don't want that. It kind of feels good at the time. But if you understand what's going to happen later, you don't want it. You don't want it. Everyone should be responsible for their own happiness, their own sobriety, their own success, and their own failure. One of the biggest things I always hate, and I've said this many times if you follow me, I hate it when people tell me that I'm lucky. I hate it when something good happens to me and someone says, damn, you're awful lucky. Well, it ain't got nothing to do with luck. I want to own my success. It ain't got jack shit to do with luck. I want to own it. It's mine. I did it. I don't want somebody telling me they're responsible for it. or that I'm lucky. I hate that. You take ownership of all those things, and it makes you feel a hell of a lot better knowing that you're in control. Because when you blame somebody, you ain't in control, and that's a horrible place to be. But some people like it because they can blame. It's easy blaming somebody else. If you don't take responsibility, it's easy blaming somebody else. So you want to watch about those traps, because that's a big one, as when it comes to responsibility and accountability. Got a bunch of people in the chat, fellas. Thank you very much. Yeah, and someone else here made a pretty good comment here in my YouTube. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it, you know. You want to go ahead and don't let anybody take away your successes. Don't let anybody take away your sobriety. It ain't about anybody else. It's about you, and that's, you've got to stay centrally focused on that mission. When you get your plan together and you finally decide, accountability is just such a huge central part of anyone's recovery. Holding yourself accountable, and you feel better. You will feel better at the end of the day once you stand up straight and you do it yourself. That's what I mean about taking ownership. Someone in here is telling me that's not normal. It's not normal. It's really it is normal for most people to blame somebody else, and it's hard. It takes some time to really truly look in yourself and recognize that you're the one that's causing the situation that you're in. I guess that's right. Someone said that's not normal. You're right. It's not normal, but you got to change the way that you're thinking. So someone in here, I love it when smart people get in the chat. I just love it. And so someone on YouTube says, they don't think I'm a very good counselor because I seem to be doing 95% of the talking. Well, see, I might tell you, you're a smart guy. I'm doing 95% of the talking because I don't get any questions. I just got a comment from you, which is not really a question, it's a comment. When I'm in group, and when I do this platform and I do a real true give and take, I do sit back and shut my mouth. Right now I'm just giving people information. People in the chat on my other platform can certainly ask a question if they want to. Right now you just made a comment. And people are talking in my ear. So you don't hear what I hear. So yeah, you're wrong. But thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. Yeah, this isn't a session. Thank you. Somebody got my back in here and understands what's going on. This is not a true counseling session. To get that, you'll have to pay, but I'm sure you're not going to be paying for that. Yeah, whatever. I love it when people. Thank you, Flav. I appreciate it. It is hard to keep yourself accountable. It really is hard. It you have to work on it every day. Holding yourself accountable is something you got to do every day. Every day you got to be accountable. Someone, oh, you always feel better. Someone in here said no one knows but them. They know best. Well, if you know best and you don't need any help, and you're good. You're good. Oh, I love it. Love it when people just on here, they know best. And you might know best. Hell, I might be pissing in the wind. Who knows? I've been around enough to, guys. I've been working in addiction and counseling services for a long time. Do I know everything? No, but there's a lot of damn stuff that I do know. Scary movie guy. I've not heard that before. I've never watched Scary Movie, but somebody in here is making fun of, I guess, the way I look, maybe. Thank you guys for the comments. I appreciate it. Thank you, Flav. Yeah, this is not the optimum. On this kind of platform, what I do here is I'm mostly just giving information. There's really not much of a give and take. I get these comments periodically. So there's not much of a give and take. My class, I hope that when people sign up, will be a better situation if you truly want some give and take, and we'll have some material to go over. And you know what? Someone in the comment there on YouTube, on the tube, said you can't reach people if they don't want to be reached, and that is true. It's, you know, you can't if unless someone's willing to change. You can facilitate it. You can make yourself available as a resource, but you just have to stand back and let them decide. If the time is right for them. Now, I say that, but I think the research is fairly clear when it comes to coerced counseling. Coerced counseling works about 30% of the time, which isn't much. But there are studies out there that seem to indicate that if someone is forced into treatment, that it does work about 30% of the time. So there's something to be said. If you've got a lever as a parent, or maybe even as an employer, I've worked with many employers that had great employees, and they liked them. They liked them as a person, and they liked them as an employee, and they were willing to do what they needed to do and put them in a program if they would straighten up, you know, and just do what they needed to do on the job because they were valuable employees. I've worked with many employers that did that with employees. They didn't just fire them. They put them in a program and tried to facilitate that person's recovery. And it works sometimes. You can't make anybody change. That's for damn sure. Yeah, no, I don't know everything. Don't know everything, but I know a lot. All right, guys, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to go in here and take a break. You can't change. Yeah, you got to recognize that there's a problem before you change. A lot of people, yeah, you have to recognize that there's an issue before you can even begin doing anything about it. And a lot of people will hide their head in the sand. Men are really bad for that. Men like to ignore problems. Men aren't really good at facing problems. They run from them primarily. They're not good at it. Men are not really culturally, we're not raised to deal with a lot of problems. All right, guys, I think I'm going to end this. Fellas, I may get back with you later. Thank you all for looking in. I don't know how many's in the chat over here. Looks like we have... I have no idea how to work this. Looks like... I don't know how many people's in here. Oh, we have... Oh, cool. We have 10 people in the tube chat. My first double digit. I'm going to give y'all a golf clap. Listen, fellas, I'm usually here in the mornings answering legal questions. So, talking about your life and law, but I am a certified addiction counselor. Guys, thank you if you're scrolling through. Follow me. Consider a subscription if you can. I appreciate it. Fellas, listen, if life and law collide in your world, what are you supposed to do, fellas? Somebody tell me. If life and law collide in your world and you ain't got nobody to talk to, nowhere to go, nothing to do, what are you supposed to do, fellas? Somebody tell me. Thank you, Renee. Give me a holler. Book a call and give me a holler. Thank you, guys. I will talk to you later. Get ready for court.